What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Down the Stretch. This is week 8 of college football. This is our fifth week now of doing college football betting picks. So just like last week, some housekeeping stuff before we get into our picks this week. Garv's now 15-8, two wins, two losses on his moral locks, so 2-2. I'm 19-19, 2-2 on my moral locks, although I am coming off maybe an all-time great parlay hit last weekend for college football. Plus 4,111 parlay hit, 10 to win $411. I'm gonna read it off real quick, just if anyone's curious. Michigan State -2, Kansas State plus 14.5, Bowling Green plus 16, Cal plus 17.5, Tennessee plus 11, Fresno State plus 4.5, Texas A&M money line, Kentucky plus 29.5, over 51 points in Oklahoma State, Texas, Syracuse plus 17.5, UTSA money line, and Virginia money line. So that's the never miss parlay. Never misses. Pretty self-explanatory stuff there. All right. So yeah, let's move into this week's college football picks. I'll go first this week. Um,
Also one thing,
oh, go ahead. Yeah.
DC made sure. DC went 2-1 last week, and his lock of the week also missed. So fade DC still exists. Fuck you, Dylan.
Okay. I'll go first for the picks this week. So I'll start off with West Point, or I'll start off the game that's happening in West Point. Wake Forest and Army. I'm going to take Wake Forest -2.5 in this game. These are two above average defenses. Army is the 28th total defense and 28th in total defense in college football. Wake Forest is 39th in total defense. Both teams average over 30 points scored in the game. So Wake Forest averages 37 points and Army 31. They're both, as I just mentioned, pretty good offensively, but they do it in really different ways. Wake Forest has a really good quarterback in Sam Hartman, and they just sling the ball all around the field, and they move the chains through the air. Versus Army, which still runs the Service Academy triple option spread stuff that normal colleges do, or that all the other service academies do. So they like to run it. But basically, what I think is going to happen in this game is that Wake Forest defense is going to get a stop, and that Wake Forest offense, which is very good, averaging 37 points a game, is going to go up multiple scores, and Army's going to have to throw to get back into this game. And Army is not able to throw, and they don't do it that much. They're bottom 10 in college football in pass attempts per game, and they're also bottom 10 in passing yards per game at only 74 yards per game. And also, Army has struggled in the secondary the last few games. Last week, they gave up 435 yards to Western Kentucky through the air, which is not good against a top 15 passing attack in Wake Forest and a very good veteran quarterback in Sam Hartman. My bad. My next pick, Cincinnati. Cincinnati goes and plays another Service Academy, Navy. Cincinnati -26.5. That's the line that we're going to go with this week. Cincinnati's been dominant this week or this year. They beat the two big games on their schedule that they're supposed to have were Indiana and Notre Dame. They beat Indiana 38-24, and they beat Notre Dame 24-13. And then in the last 2 weeks, they've outscored Temple, and Temple's not a very good team, but UCF is a fairly competitive team, and they've outscored both of them combined 108-24. And just to be frank, simply put, like Navy is just not good. It's not a very good football team. Against Memphis last week, their defense was brutal. They gave up 4 plays of over 50 yards in the air. Not good against a Heisman hopeful coming into town, Desmond Ridder. And Navy only ran for 109. Navy ran for 198 yards, and you might be thinking that's a lot, but they did that on 65 attempts, which is just 3 yards a carry. And against a stout Cincinnati defense with talent up front. And Navy already can't throw the ball, just like I mentioned with Army, because they run the triple option and stuff. They choose not to throw it, and it's not a big part of the offense. So what's going to happen here is Navy's going to fall behind, and Navy's going to have to throw, and you're not going to be able to throw against the Cincinnati cornerbacks. I forget the other guy, but you're not throwing at Sauce Gardner. And both guys grade out to be top 10 corners in college football for Cincinnati, so you're not throwing it very well against them, and they're just not going to be able to keep up. I think Desmond Ridder is going to eat this defense alive that just gave up these big plays. Cincinnati is a good running back. They'll probably be able to do whatever they want on offense, and honestly, Cincinnati should win this game by close to 40. Um,
Good pick.
yeah, I mean,
Really good pick.
just said Cincinnati, like they've been killing everybody. Even their out of conference games, they've won by double digits. My next pick is Colorado State -3 versus Utah State. Shout out Rico Bosco for putting me on Colorado State. Um, the Rams absolutely beat the shit out of New Mexico last week. New Mexico had 68 yards of total offense in that game. Their quarterback Todd Cientio, he threw for 289 yards last week, and on the defense side of the ball, they forced 4 turnovers and managed 6 sacks. The Rams have been hot; they've won 3 straight, and Utah State's a competitive team, but this could turn into a shootout. And I like the offense that's rolling and the defense that is just coming off a good game in Colorado State. So give me -3 in that game. I like that. That's not too many points to cover. My next pick is going to be UTSA -5.5 versus Louisiana Tech. I've been riding UTSA the last few weeks. UTSA is now ranked actually 24th, I'm pretty sure, and they do have wins over some pretty good Power Five teams. Illinois being the one that comes to mind, and I guess just Illinois. Um, the Roadrunners have covered in every single win except a 24-17 home victory against UNLV, where they were 21.5 point favorites. The Roadrunners have been fantastic against the run, sixth best in the nation, letting opponents only run for 2.6 yards per attempt. They've been pretty successful throwing through the air, with 276 passing yards per game, which puts them in the bottom half of the bottom quarter of college football. But I think that's just because you can't run the ball, and you can see in their scoring defense, they only give up 19 points a game, which is top 25 in the country. So UTSA 5.5 isn't a lot of points. They have a good offense. They run it. Their defense doesn't give up running plays, and Louisiana Tech has been struggling recently, 3 straight losses. So ride UTSA here -5.5. And then my final pick I'll let Garv go before we do the mortal locks. I'm gonna give out South Alabama for the 5th week in a row, or yeah, fifth. All 5 weeks we've done it. South Alabama, -12.5. This time against Louisiana, University of Louisiana at Monroe. Jake Bentley, the South Alabama quarterback, leads an offense that ranks right around middle of the pack. They average 387 yards per game. And he's a former South Carolina transfer, so he does have SEC experience, which I think is important to note. He's completed 68% of his passes this year, which is a really high completion percentage. And they have a really explosive receiver who has 718 yards through 7 weeks, basically averaging 100 yards per game. They have a carry split in the backfield, both guys above 4.5 yards per carry. And they're facing, most importantly, a Louisiana Monroe defense that is 117th in the country, giving up 455 yards per game. To make matters worse for Louisiana Monroe, they've been one of the worst offensive teams in college football. They've ranked 128th total with 260 yards per game. South Alabama has one of the most veteran defenses in the conference and is one of the best, obviously, with their veteran players. And their defense they're 16th nationally, allowing just under 300 yards per game. Also, this is a huge letdown spot for Louisiana Monroe after they had the big upset win over Liberty last week. I mean, they didn't play very well in that game, if anyone watched it. So they were fortunate to come out with the win. Liberty just played really, really bad. And they're playing a freshman quarterback against a veteran defense. And the Jaguars, the South Alabama Jaguars, have one of the most experienced quarterbacks in the country. He's now in his 5th year. So just look for South Alabama to roll this whole way. It should be an easy cover there. But yeah, that's all. Those are my 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are my 5 picks. I will be back once Garv's done for my mortal lock. So go ahead, Rev.
All right, so we have a short card this week. You would think that since I went 5-0 last week, that I would have a little bit more confidence, but I didn't really like the slate this week. All right, so to go in the first one, I have Charlotte +7.5 against FAU. Charlotte is currently in their last 5, 4-1-1 against the spread with 1 push, and the FAU quarterback is playing with a foot injury. Depending on when you do see this, we are recording on Thursday, and they do play at 7:30 tonight. So this might be after you might already know the result of this pick by the time you watch it. Now to my next pick, Ole Miss -7. It's teased down. It's with the odds of -140. LSU, public's riding LSU a lot after their little bit of a somewhat of a decent win against Florida. It was a close one. I don't think Florida is that great this year, at least. I mean, they have their moments, but they're not anywhere close to Ole Miss, especially on offense. Especially and then LSU defense has just had so many injuries, and there's no way that they can really compete with Ole Miss's offense, especially Matt Corral. He's been slinging it, and yeah, so like, and then LSU's offense isn't great either. So I'm going with the fade the public pick. 55% of spread bets on the game are on LSU to cover, I think, +8.5 or +9. So I'm going to go with Ole Miss -7. And then UCLA -1, basically a pick 'em against Oregon. Oregon is currently 1-6 against the spread in their last 7. DTR, UCLA running quarterback is playing really good, dual threat. Pac-12 is just like not that great.
They
Pac-12
beat
football
themselves
isn't
up.
great.
They love to just
Yeah,
beat each other.
yeah. So I mean, Pac-12 football has been pretty crazy, honestly, with the amount of like unpredictability like that's been there. Obviously, Oregon had the best shot to make the college football playoff, completely blew it. But it is basically a money line, but it does have better odds. So I'm just going to go with UCLA -1, and we can run more to locks.
I do want to say for the LSU game, the big takeaway from last week's LSU game is that they can now run the ball like LSU could back in the day with like Leonard Fournette and
Yeah,
company. Leonard Fournette, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. They can run it like that now. They ran for 257, or it's like no, it's 287 yards in the last week's game by LSU's running back, which is a school record. So they can run the ball, cut the game in half, start to tick it out. I mean, you only have it at 7, and 7 is just one score. But
yeah.
at the
I mean,
original line of 9, it might get a little dicey if LSU can play chew clock and keep it close by scoring. So something
yeah.
to
I mean,
note.
I think LSU's having a little bit of problems. Obviously, like morale's not high since Coach O is announced to be leaving after this year. And then like regardless of their rushing record or whatever, Ole Miss drives like they're just ridiculous. Like they just sling the ball. They're like LSU doesn't have the corners to really keep up with their receivers and that type of stuff. So like I think Ole Miss, regardless of how much time they get, they can still put up a fuck ton of points.
Yeah, before we get into our motor locks, I'm just going to touch on some other big games that are happening and just throw out some lines in case people just want to know some games to bet on. There is an interesting game here for Purdue. They are home, and they are 3-point dogs at home to Wisconsin. Wisconsin not a great football team. I don't see why you wouldn't take Purdue in the points there. They're at home. It could be a letdown spot, but that's one of the games that I was looking at that didn't make my card. Another one that I was looking at that I just didn't know how to pick was Clemson Pitt. Pitt is
Yeah,
actually favored -3 in this game, but it would not surprise me if we saw a very vintage Clemson team just come out here and dominate because I feel like we've yet to see it. And even though Clemson's not very good, I think they have one of those games in them this year where they just are like, okay, we're still Clemson. We still have like better athletes than you. So I wouldn't be surprised if that happened in the Clemson game. Um, Another interesting game that's going on is Michigan Northwestern. I was tempted to take Northwestern +24. I don't know about you. I still do not believe in Michigan. I don't.
of course not.
I mean,
Harbaugh sucks.
their best win, I think, is Nebraska, and Nebraska finds ways to
Yeah,
beat themselves every week. So I mean, I don't believe in them yet. I don't believe in them beating a Big Ten team by 24, especially in a game that should be low scoring with both teams trying to run the ball. So I don't like 24 and a half. I don't like 24 -24. I didn't take it, but it's something that I had my eye on. And then besides that, there's some big games. Oklahoma State plays Iowa State, and Oklahoma State's an underdog, even though they're 8th in the country, and Iowa State is unranked. So that looks like a trap game. Um, I mean, I feel like there's a reason the line's like that. So there's been
yeah. I
a
had the same thought. I saw the line. I was like, "There's no fucking way I'm touching that shit."
there's been 87% of bets on OSU, Oklahoma State +7. So the trap might be there for Iowa State. if someone wants to take it. But yeah, those are some of the big games that are happening. Obviously, there's some other interesting games around college football like Alabama, Tennessee. Penn State's back in action this week. So is Ohio State. Michigan plays. So yeah, there's some top 10 teams. It's been the year of chaos, so wouldn't be surprised if someone got knocked off. But yeah, moving in now to our mortal locks. I'll go first, and I will give out my mortal lock for the week. It'll be NC State -3 versus Miami. Um,
Saw that coming from a mile away.
yeah, I mean,
Huge NC State guy.
I'm a big NC State guy. Go Wolfpack. I mean, I have the future for NC State over 5.5 wins. I'm pretty sure they're at 5 wins now after last week's annihilation of Boston College. What are they at? NC State. NC State football. They are at. Why can't I see the record? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, there. I mean, hey, they could win me some money this week, double money on NC State if they can win. So I would cover the future bet at the start of the year, and also would cover this week. NC State's playing Miami. The Wolfpack, 42nd in the nation in passing offense, 66 in the country in rushing offense. So just pretty middle of the pack everywhere. Decent offense, pretty well balanced. 40th in scoring offense. So just pretty middle of the pack offense. But then you get to that NC State defense, which is number 6 in total and scoring defense in the country, only giving up 14.2 points per game. And it's against a Miami team that is going to struggle without their best playmaker, De'Aaron King, who went down a couple weeks ago with a shoulder injury. Miami now has a freshman quarterback playing, and although this game is at home, this is a very veteran, aggressive NC State defense that creates a lot of turnovers as they've forced 10, and Miami's turned it over a good amount this year with 11 turnovers. So expect NC State to cause a turnover or two and really make life difficult for the Miami quarterback, as they only give up 54% completion rate against them. So NC State, you might be able to tease this one up if you can. -3 feels criminally low, but I mean, I'll take it at -3 and I'll just hammer it. It is the lock of the week. But yeah, go ahead. What's yours?
I have Ohio State -21 against Indiana. Like my reasoning is Penn State, like we absolutely murdered them. Obviously it was a little bit of a revenge game after Micro Penis Jr. Had the bullshit ass touchdown in 2020 season. But Ohio State's also coming off a bye. This another thing to note in general when you're making your picks these next few weeks. This is resume building season for a lot of these top teams. So Ohio State's going to want a blowout win to kind of showcase that they're worthy of the college football playoff. A lot of teams are going to want to do that. Michigan's going to want to do that. Penn State's obviously going to want to do that. Unless you're Georgia, you're not. There's a little bit of leeway in the college football playoff right now. Georgia or Cincinnati, in a sense. So yeah, there are a lot of these teams are going to come out try and make their resume look as good as possible. I think Ohio State's going to win by at least 21 against Indiana this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good pick. I mean, Ohio State has the number 1 offense in college football. Since that loss against Oregon, I think I saw that they're averaging like 50 points a game. CJ
Yeah.
Stroud is putting up crazy numbers. I mean, as previously mentioned, they have the best wide receiver room in the entire country. Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave and Jackson Smith and Jigba. Indiana struggled. I mean, if Indiana gave up 24 to Penn State and they didn't score, obviously, I think they'll score on Ohio State's defense because it's not as good. Ohio State defense has gotten better though. But I think even if Indiana can score a little bit, there's just no way they keep up with Ohio State's offense, and that Indiana
Yeah.
defense is banged up in the secondary. Their best corner went down with a multiple week injury against Penn State, so I don't know if he's back yet. I think it's Tyvon Mullen. He's out. So I mean, not great. I mean, he wasn't going to be able to guard all 3 of the receivers for Ohio State anyway, but
Yeah.
frees up more gaps. And I think the more CJ Stroud plays, the better he'll get. So I really like that pick, actually. I might take that too.
All right. Yeah. I mean, if we had DC here, we'd give you guys another fade of the week. And just to kind of give that same feeling, we did tell you guys a little bit about how the public's betting. Last week, to note, was probably historically great for the public. So this week, Vegas is probably going to try and get their money back somehow. So that's just another thing to note.
No, that's a good stat. All right. Well, that's it here for down the stretch. We will be back potentially with a college football recap, depending on the chaos that goes on in college football. Otherwise, we will see you next week for week 9 college football picks. Yeah, be sure to check us out on Instagram at underscore down the stretch sports underscore. You'll see some picks, some live picks that might not be on our card that we'll take. We'll probably throw them up there so you guys can see them. So be sure to follow for some extra picks, maybe some live bets that we throw in. But yeah, that's it. I mean, please gamble responsibly. Call 1-800-GAMBLER if you have a gambling problem. But yeah, that's it for us. Anything you want to say?
All right, I'm signing out from the nether. I'll catch you guys.
All right, guys. See ya. Thank you so much for watching.